The Democratic Alliance is calling for the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into farm murders. The call has been amplified by the party's re-elected federal chairperson, Ivan Meyer, who said the murders threaten safety in rural areas and, by extension, the agricultural sector. Meyer joins us for more on this. Ivan, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers.
This is something that the DA has ventilated before, and it looks like you are sticking with it. Tell us, why is it important for the Democratic Alliance to deal and have farm murder specifically being looked into at this level?
Firstly, the Democratic Alliance is the official opposition in South Africa, and farm murders poses a serious threat to food security in South Africa, but more important, it goes beyond South Africa, because 50% of South Africa's primary agriculture are being exported on the African continent. We are a net exporter of agricultural products. And the president of South Africa, he was in New York, and he was confronted by questions of farm murders, and he denied it in New York. And so it is the duty of the official opposition to discuss this matter in the public domain, and that is what we are doing, because evidence suggests that both black and white farmers are being murdered every single day in South Africa, and this is a national tragedy because it will pose a serious threat to food security, not only in South Africa, but also on the African continent. For example, in 1980, Zimbabwe was the food basket of Africa. Today, they are a net importer. So we have the hard lessons of what has happened in a neighboring state in terms of farm murders and farm attacks in Zimbabwe. We certainly cannot afford that to happen. One of the laws of public governance is to admit that a problem exists, then you can certainly doing something about it. And so for us, it is important as the Democratic Alliance to raise this in the public domain so that you can do something about it and not deny that these things are happening. It was shocking when 18 black farmers were killed in KwaZulu-Natal, and nobody ever spoke about this. And that's why we in the Democratic Alliance believe that an attack on a farmer, an attack on a farm worker, is an attack on the economy of a country. And when your economy is under attack, it is the duty and the responsibility of the government to deal with this matter in the public domain, because safety is the first responsibility of a state, and our state in South Africa is failing us. Therefore, the Democratic Alliance at its Federal Congress adopted a resolution that we put before a constitutional application of that rule, that a judicial commission of inquiry be appointed to investigate farm murders in South Africa, make recommendations, invite experts on the subject matter, invite farming organizations and farm worker organizations to come and testify before the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, make certain recommendations both to Parliament as the legislative authority, but also to the Cabinet and the responsible ministers as part of the executive authority. I think this is a crisis, and we cannot simply sit and wait for these things, because it's not correct to simply deny that farm murders are happening in South Africa. It poses a significant threat to food security. And that's why...
Ivan, why specifically a judicial commission of inquiry? Were there no other methods that you, or at least think, could work? And the reason I'm saying this is that we've had many judicial commission of inquiry in South Africa, and the jury's still out as to whether they work or not. But from your perspective as the Democratic Alliance, why a judicial commission of inquiry?
Well, for two reasons. Firstly, the constitutions allow for the appointment of a judicial commission of inquiry. You also get committees of inquiries. But because the head of state and the head of government, the president, he denied that something like this happened. And therefore, it is not correct to let the executive authority investigate this matter when the president himself is on record to say it is not happening. And the attitude of the executive authority simply indicates to us that they are not interested in dealing with this matter. That's why we believe that a judicial commission of inquiry is the best instrument to deal with these farm matters. We must come to the bottom of what is happening in South Africa before it is too late, and it was now too late in Zimbabwe to rescue the situation. We can still deal with this matter, and we have to deal it because of what we are seeing. It is not only farm murders, it is the brutality of what is happening, and the Judicial Commission of Inquiry will be able to get to the bottom of this matter in the public domain, because once you admit a problem exists, then you can determine the outcomes that you want to achieve. You can develop a rural safety plan, put monitors and indicators there to manage this problem. We need to make rural communities more safer, because an attack on a farmer is fundamentally an attack on the economy, and we need to create jobs here in South Africa to keep people into jobs and create a well-being.
When you look into, as you said, that you feel that because of the president effectively saying or turning a blind eye to farm matters, what are you hoping to achieve out of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to tell us exactly what the issues are, or at least what causes these matters, and maybe the ignorance that we're talking about here? From your perspective, what would ideally be the outcome of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry should it happen?
For me, it is very important to firstly, in terms of develop the proper terms of reference for the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. Secondly, is to investigate the nature of farm murders. When does it happen? What time of the day? Are there other external influences? Which areas are subjected to this particular crime, so that you have a baseline study in terms of understanding the nature, the severity of the problem. Also look into cases that has been before the court. What was the evidence in current court cases? Is the legal system currently dealing effectively with those people who have committed serious crimes, so that you can develop a pattern of what is happening? And then, more importantly, what is it that the criminal justice system is doing in order to effect justice for people living in rural communities? But also, since the executive authority avoids its responsibility in terms of dealing with this, it is therefore also one of the outcomes, so that the courts can make absolutely clear, because no single minister wants to take responsibility for farm murders in South Africa. And it is my intention through this resolution that was adopted that the courts must be explicit in terms of locating the responsibility for dealing with these farm murders. It is a tragedy what is happening here in South Africa.
Ivan, shouldn't the president be involved then? I mean, when we talk about the commissions of inquiries, the president somehow has to play a role in appointing commissions of inquiry if Section 84 is anything to go by. So is he not supposed to be involved? And if you are saying you're going with the Judicial Commission of Inquiry and you're saying that the president is turning a blind eye to this, how do you get a buy-in from that? Or are you hoping to go in without his buy-in, lack of a better phrasing?
Well, we have seen that the current government in South Africa has turned a blind eye to corruption, in dealing with corruption. And yet, we had pressed very hard in the National Assembly to get a commission of inquiry into state capture. So it is still possible. The role of the president, the role of the head of state is determined in the Constitution, and we will continue to put pressure on the government and the president to appoint a judicial commission of inquiry. And it is still possible for the president to do so and decide on the terms of reference, appoint a judge, and let the judge do its work independently, but obviously also get first-hand experience, because there are many people who have done some significant work in this area, farmers and farming organizations, organized agriculture, but also farm workers organizations. They must be able to testify before a judicial commission of inquiry and then make certain recommendations and then hand over a report to the president and then ask that that report also be tabled before Parliament,
right,
so that Parliament and the various committees can deal with this matter.
Ivan, thank you so much for coming through to talk to us. That's Ivan Meyer talking to us there about their plan to at least force the president to go on and institute a commission of inquiry.